So, what can you do? In the previous video, I offered you a grab bag of ideas from anarchist thinkers. It was a lot of words and names and years, and in contrast to all that theory, this video is going to be super practical. Let's get your hands dirty. For many, there's a kind of dirtiness or yuck associated with AI. So in this segment, I want to persuade you to actually physically put your hands on this technology. I want you to install some free apps on your phone or your laptop today, and I want you to use them to run AI systems locally, not merely access someone else's cloud service. If you have a phone in your hand right now, I want you to check out the Pocket Pal AI app from this site. The link here goes to a GitHub project with all the source code, but you can find the same app distributed for Android and iOS via the official app stores for convenient installation. If you're watching this video on a laptop, I want you to check out the LM Studio desktop app from this site. This one isn't open source, but it's free too, and no ads either. The site offers installers for macOS, Windows, and Linux. There are many alternatives to both of these apps, but these are two that I've actually installed and have found to be pretty personally useful. Once you have the app installed, you'll need to get the app to download an LLM for you. At this scale, we usually call these SLMs, or small language model. What counts as small is basically, can it run on my personal device? My personal laptop here has about 64 gigabytes of RAM, whereas yours might have just 8 gigabytes, so small is relative to the person. To keep things simple for today, I'll have you focus on the Qwen 3.5 family of SLMs. This family comes from the company Alibaba, sometimes described as the Amazon of China. The Alibaba of the USA, Amazon, has a similar line of SLMs in the Nova 2.0 family, but they aren't open weight. This means you can't download them. You can only use them as cloud services. So let's look at the range of sizes available in the Qwen 3.5 SLM family. These are ranging from 0.8B, that's only about 800 million, 2B, 4B, 9B, and so on. But I want to have your attention focus on the 4 billion parameter model, both for your phones and laptops as a starting point. The B number here tells you how many parameters the model has in billions. To ignore some of the interesting details around sparsity and quantization, I just want you to think of the parameter count as telling you the size of the model. Just imagine that 1 billion parameters requires 1 gigabyte of memory, requires a 1 gigabyte data download. If you don't know what a gigabyte is, maybe you can think of that as being equivalent to watching 15 minutes of HD video streaming on YouTube. So that Qwen 3.5 4B model is going to perhaps require 4 gigabytes of memory, with a download volume comparable to watching YouTube for about an hour. This is a realistic model for most of you to run on your phones. Depending on what kind of laptop you have, the 9B or 27B models might be a good fit for your laptop. They are larger and consume proportionally more energy per word of output than the smaller ones, but they're smarter in the sense of less frequently making dumb mistakes. You can't fully trust any LLM, but bigger is often better in terms of reliability. This segment is about getting your hands dirty with these tools. I'd like you to try some simple chats with these models. Feel how much the device warms up your hand or your lap. Feel how slowly the text trickles out. Feel how the bigger or hotter model might be worth the wait to get the answers. None of these SLMs is a direct replacement for the experience you'd have with something like ChatGPT, but they let you feel this continuum between a simple calculator or an offline dictionary app and the size of a model that requires an integrated rack of data center servers to run. About once per month, I find it handy to have access to an SLM when I don't have Wi-Fi or cellular data, and I just want to ask a small question. As one example, I had occasion to need access to a ukulele tuner app while I was offline. I couldn't download an app from the App Store because I was offline, obviously, but I could ask the SLM in Pocket Pal AI to output the JavaScript and HTML code for an interactive ukulele tuner app. I copied the resulting code back into another app that let me render the result in my mobile browser. Even if the app didn't really look good or sound nice, it worked for the task of tuning the ukulele. When I got back online, I was able to verify that it had used the correct fundamental frequencies for each string of the instrument. I'm telling you this story about the ukulele tuner to show that having this stuff installed on your personal devices isn't just about breaking dependence on ChatGPT. It can be part of a broader alternative to advertising and purchase-driven app stores. It can be part of following your curiosity in non-digital things. It can be part of how you offer gifts to others. Stepping back, I think the real value in getting your hands on entirely local AI tools like this is how they let you learn about AI. When everything is there on your computer after a finite download, no accounts or subscriptions, working even when the Wi-Fi is out, you get a different perspective that doesn't start from the hegemonic frame. These SLMs often come from big international corporations, but they don't have to. To be specific, it's not just big tech companies in China doing this. Around here, even OpenAI, of ChatGPT infamy, has released the GPT-OSS family of open-weight models. These were hot a few months ago, but as of March 2026, the model from Alibaba, I think, are the ones that are the best for your personal devices. To close out this segment, let me say that while SLMs are kind of fun, they're often just too dumb to feel like they're worth my while to use on a daily basis. I care about having a meaningful alternative to ChatGPT, and that requires something incrementally bigger in scope. In a previous video in this series, I mentioned Bookchin's municipalism. Remember, that's the intent to organize our systems around the scale of cities, not nation-states or international corporations. In this segment, we're going to talk about that middle scale. We're going to talk about not the city of UC Santa Cruz, but the UC Santa Cruz campus as our municipality of interest. You can't all just play sovereign citizen and use the SLM on your phone as a ChatGPT replacement. These models and the hardware that they run on are just too slow and dumb. At the same time, we can't, and I think shouldn't, try to build a data center on campus to run the very largest models. I also don't think we should subscribe to access the hegemonic cloud providers. We use Gmail and Google Drive for email and files on campus, right? We could just buy into Google's Gemini for education, or the OpenAI and Anthropic alternatives to that product. But I don't think we should, because I think there's a more appropriate alternative, or at least I think I can make us one. Let me show you Bayleaf Chat. This is something that I made and something that you can use right now on your device. Just sign in with your ucsu.edu Google account. You can see it looks a lot like ChatGPT. There's a chatbot in a web page, and there must be an LLM involved somewhere. Your phone or your laptop doesn't get hot while using it, so the heavy compute must be running somewhere else. The web interface here runs on a single small server operated by me out of a data center in San Francisco. The backend LLM services are accessed through a service called OpenRouter that aggregates access to a competitive market of LLM inference providers. These are usually companies that only do token generation for pre-trained models. They aren't in the business of collecting data to train some bigger next-generation model. I've set up Bayleaf to only route your messages to zero data retention providers. ZDR is a stronger privacy deal than you get from most companies that promise to delete your data after 30 days, or whatever term they promise. These providers simply don't store it at all. This simplifies their service because they don't need to build storage infrastructure. By default, the models you talk to in Bayleaf Chat are those medium-sized open-weight models. If ChatGPT was powered by a 4 trillion parameter model, these might be quarter-trillion parameter models. They feel almost as smart as those hegemonic models, but they cost only about 1/16 as much in terms of energy or in terms of dollars to access. Bayleaf is explicitly targeting UC Santa Cruz campus community, students, faculty, and staff. Any of you can use it, but nobody outside. As I build it, I can take shortcuts knowing that my service never needs to handle going viral or handling 1 billion users internationally. We have a pretty stable population of about 25,000 people in our little municipality, and that's not growing. I can select and assemble appropriate technologies. I can build a convivial system that would never make sense as a commercial product because it doesn't have customers or revenue. I pay the bills, and they aren't that high. It just feels good to serve the community here. Let's look at Gemini for Workspace from Google. It's a chatbot that can read your email and drive. Staff at UC Santa Cruz have experimental access to this right now, but I've heard they find the feature clunky and inconsistent. The chatbot can sometimes claim that, of course, it can't access your data, but a moment later it can. The parts of Google that operate Drive and operate the Gemini chat service are both big organizations with internal political divisions. The part of Google that makes Gemini itself is yet another org, and they're all trying to service a global audience at the same time. Because my audience is just UC Santa Cruz, I have no internal staff to manage. I can plug together different parts of Google more directly than they can. At the end of the quarter, when I want to manage a bunch of loose emails from different students requesting an incomplete grade in my class for different reasons, I can have my agent, based on the Bayleaf services, look across my email, Canvas, and other sources to gather all that information about the student into one place. This regionalization, or willingness to not always operate at the global scale, can be a competitive advantage. We can have things that are better and nicer than the best hegemonic alternatives precisely because we are not constrained to be hegemonic about it. I'd like other campuses, maybe nearby CSUs and community colleges, to copy aspects of Bayleaf's design. However, I don't want to give them access to our Bayleaf. They should learn from our successes and mistakes and set up their own lightweight campus-specific alternative. Bayleaf is a generalization of the Brace chatbot that I've run for my past two offerings of CMPM 121 game design patterns. When students talk to Brace, the model knows that they are a student in a specific course. It can read their lecture notes. It can read the assignment due dates and rubrics from Canvas. By being hyper-regional, specific to just one course, it can give a grounded answer to questions like, when is P2 due, in a way that ChatGPT never could, because the right answer to that question is not in the public data on the web. That data is only available to the community of one specific course, one specific quarter. You might have noticed that you don't access Bayleaf through a domain name like bayleaf.ucse.edu. Bayleaf is not an official campus IT service. It's a piece of this dual-power political project. The campus could adopt a hegemonic solution, like how the entire CSU system bought into ChatGPT for education. They could cut off technical access that I use to authenticate user accounts and require me to delete your data. Or they could decide that they like it, that they like how fabulously cheap it is, how they can make it as UC Santa Cruz specific as they want without needing to have the service also serve other kinds of organizations. They could decide to adopt it and make it official. Bayleaf is an anarchist political project. It's a piece of counterfoil research. It's an attempt to build convivial tools with appropriate technologies for the municipal scale. Coming you today as a teacher, here's what I want you to learn. The future is not set. You should not look at existing hegemonic AI infrastructure and think that's just what AI is. You should think, why should we buy into all that stuff when there's an alternative right here? When you get these apps on your phone or your laptop, you start to build a physical, tactile sense that hegemony is far from a necessary aspect of AI. Even if the message from others is that you have no real power and no real choices about this AI thing, I want you to see the counterargument.